inclusion of individuals with disabilities in all aspects of societal life is essentially important, especially when you're looking to establish diversity and acceptance among all people. And if you can provide them access to centralized information and resources, it makes this process exponentially easier to achieve. That's the mission of the Beyond Disability Network. They're a collaborative community network working to enhance the lives of individuals living with chronic disabilities in Windsor and Essex County by creating a centralized information sharing hub, bringing awareness to disability issues, and partnering together to bring about positive change. Melanie Garden and Arla Peters both serve on the board of directors for the network. They joined me this week to discuss the network's mission and the goals they hope to achieve through their work. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. So, ladies, if you're ready, I'll welcome you to the program, and I'm excited to learn all about Beyond Disability this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
So, I'm wondering if I could start you off by simply asking you, what is Beyond Disability and how does it work?
So, Beyond Disability is an umbrella organization, and within our organization we have a number of members, and these members are either charitable, not-for-profit, or volunteer groups that service people with chronic disabilities. And as a network, our goal is to bring people together to cross disability and to create one common voice for persons with disabilities in our community.
And tell me, who are the members of the network?
So the members of the organization, as Melanie mentioned, are those organizations that serve the many in our community who are living with chronic disabilities. Examples are ALS, Brain Injury Association, stroke, amputees, MS, community living. Also is Assisted Living Southwestern Ontario. Hotel du Grace Hospital is involved. John McGivney Children's Center. It's very, very broad, and essentially it's just an open partnership for any organization or even individual who wants to be involved and to contribute. So that's what we are. So we have what we call a partnership council, and they advise the board of directors. So we do have a board, but it's really, this organization is more about the partnership council. We share ideas.
And tell me, where is the network located for people who may be interested in knowing where it is and how they can get involved?
So we actually have a physical space. We have a partnership with Hotel du Grace Healthcare. That's been really, really wonderful. We've been there for a couple of years, and we're actually inside that space, and we have a room. It's room 1326. If you go into Hotel du Grace Healthcare and follow the wayfinding signs, you will find your way to us just down the hall from Dr. Liam's office. So we have a physical space which has some lovely art in it, and we can hold meetings in there, and our members are allowed to use that space for various things that they need it for. But right now, and since the pandemic, and obviously since we're trying to distance ourselves from one another, but still be connected, we've been contacting each other virtually. So we have Zoom meetings, and these meetings are happening roughly every other month. It's usually the last Tuesday of the month from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock on Zoom. And we have really an open door policy. So if there's someone that feels as an individual or as an organization that you might be a good fit, for Beyond Disability, then we welcome you to join us. And if you submit your email, you can get on the distribution list for those meetings.
And I know that the need for the network is to provide centralized information sharing and advocate for disability-related issues here in Windsor and Essex County. So could you elaborate for me on the need for the network?
Sure. I think originally this organization, Beyond Disability, was, I think, the brainchild of Dr. Nathania Liam. She saw this need, back more than 10 years ago. I think Melanie could speak to it better than I, but
Yeah.
this need in our community, almost an adult John McGivney Children's Center, a place where individuals with disabilities who need service and help living beyond their disability in their community and accessing services. Now, Hotel du Grace Healthcare, I think, has become a good part of that in our community. They now have the physical space and they offer services for rehabilitation and many of the services that were envisioned in our initial mission. So we have morphed more into a network of filling in gaps and bringing organizations together. So many organizations, sort of like MS or ALS, they're specifically focused on a population for a specific diagnosis, and that's needed also. But there's gaps in services, people that fall through the cracks. There's services that are needed across the various types of disabilities or diagnoses. So this network is to bring all of those organizations, whoever wants to be involved, together to share information, to have education, sharing of education, to help navigate in our community that can be very difficult knowing where to go. So it encourages collaboration. It really is about partnership. What can we do together that can make a difference and help those living with disabilities to have a better, easier time of it? That's in the end what we're there for, to have a collective advocacy, a voice where maybe one organization identifies an issue they're having and other organizations say, you know, that issue applies to us equally. How can we work together and to make that better, to fix that problem, to fill the service gap, do what we can.
And tell me, what are some future goals and objectives of the network and its mission?
So one of the really, really exciting things about being involved in Beyond Disability is that we're very flexible. So it's nice that we have that ability to adapt and change and really suit the needs of what's happening in our community right now. So because we're directed by a partnership council and these organizations are on the ground, so these are all frontline service providers, people that are in touch with the potentially 22,000 or more people that are living in our community with a chronic disability. So they have a very good pulse on what is happening in the community. And so our network, because we're meeting regularly and because we have that flexibility, we can then address those issues. So for example, right now that we're living in pandemic times, there's been some challenges with access to technology, and not just access to internet access, but actually being able to use the technology. So, you know, March of Dimes had shared at a meeting that they got some funding to help persons with disabilities with low income learn to use technology. But that was helpful to a lot of people in our group. And then someone else, the Tetra Society, who was a very interesting organization, did a presentation for our whole partnership council on ways that they can adapt technology for a person with a disability. So whether it's mounting something on a wheelchair, or whether it's setting up some Google Home or something in their community, or teaching them to use a specific device, or actually manufacturing them something to enhance their life, that those sorts of presentations have been really useful. And so one of the great things about the network is that we don't really know where we're going because it's all dictated by our partnership council. We definitely know that we want to do more work in the areas of advocacy, communication, education, and that's one of the reasons why we thought it was such lovely timing that you were willing to have us on this podcast, because I think education and making people aware that the network's there, and if they have questions or needs, that they can come to us and we can try and put them in touch with the right organization that can help them, or bring it up to the partnership council. We've had that happen. You know, someone said, where is there accessible swimming for seniors in our community, or where are the accessible pools, or how do we access it? So those sorts of questions will come up. We bring it to the partnership council and we get feedback, and then we share that through our minutes. And we're basically educating each other, because you'd be surprised how many things are available in the community if you start asking around and you know who to ask. So that's one of the great things that I found, at least being involved. I learned something every meeting.
Arla, did you want to add anything to that?
I would agree with Melanie completely. I personally learn something at every meeting. So not only do you try to bring something that you know or have to the meeting, I always learn something from someone else. And talking about issues that cross disability, one that came up, I recall, that was near and dear to my heart, is transportation. So transportation for those with disability, particularly if they're in the county where handy transit doesn't currently access. And there's there's called community services, and there's bus links funded through the LIN, but they go from a specific place to one other place in the city, to a doctor's appointment or a day program. But how do you go visit your friend in LaSalle? And how do you get to the university when you live in Leamington? And so transportation is an issue for our whole community. And the discussion is, well, if we're working on a master plan, how do we get our voice into that planning process so that we can make that issue better? That's just one. There's new issues that come up every day, the internet, et cetera, especially now that we're living with COVID. A lot of our conversation is focused on what we could potentially do to be of help in that regard. And technology has been big on that one. So that's
I
about
think
what I would
with
add.
COVID too, yeah, with COVID too, we started talking about best practices during COVID and what all these there's 19 organizations, but what are they doing? And it's been interesting that how many of them have adapted and put their support groups online and put their social programming online. So, and what's nice about that is once it goes online, it's easier. If you have internet access and the ability to do it, you could start joining different support groups that maybe you couldn't otherwise physically have gotten to, or you might just want to drop in and see if it's a good fit for you. So maybe you wouldn't necessarily join the brain injury coffee chat group, but they're having it and you're like, oh, it's on Zoom. I'll chat with these people today and see if it's a good fit. So I think it is opening doors. And in some ways, the pandemic has brought some good things to light as well. And I think that virtual connection is going to be here to stay for a little while.
And I know that social inclusion is also a big part of the network. So I know that's one of your core missions as well.
Yes,
For
absolutely.
sure, socialization or isolation has become, it was always, I think, an issue for persons with disabilities because of, like Arla mentioned, transportation issues or needing a caregiver to go with you and scheduling and or lack of places to go or issues with accessibility. So I think that was always an issue, but I'm sure that many would agree the pandemic has just made it that much worse. So we're always, even during pandemic times, as we're learning what different people are doing, sharing that with the partnership council, because then they share it with their members and, you know, email list distribution, newsletters, our website, just getting that word out there to be able to enhance the lives of persons living with chronic disability in any way we can. And that covers like such a wide gamut of things, whether it's education, it's work related, it's ODSP related, it could be social, it could be educational, like transportation, housing. Like there's just so many issues that can cross disability that we've really left ourselves open-minded and flexible in terms of what issues are going to be brought to the forefront and the types of things we're going to work on.
And ladies, I'm wondering if you could share with me why it was important for you specifically to join the network.
Melanie, did you want
Do you
to
want me to
start?
go first, Darla?
Yeah, you can go first.
So I think the three of us all have the same person in common that Dr. Liam, I think, had asked us all personally to join the board. And I think that's probably how we're all connected. So I was asked to join. Now it was over probably 10 years ago. And it's been just an honor or privilege to see it evolve over that time. And I always am impressed when I do those annual general meeting agendas and I put together the reports of how much we've actually accomplished over the time we've been together. And there's still so much work to do. And I think that's what energizes me about being on this board, is that I see where we've been, but I see where we need to go, and still all the gaps and the unmet needs. And I feel like there's still so much potential for this organization and this network. So I'm excited to have been on the board and hope to continue my work.
So you're right, Melanie. I was connected through Dr. Liam and seeing her passion. So I first met Dr. Liam with my son, Michael, who attended at the John McGivney Children's Center and received services there from shortly after he was born until he was 20 or 21 and transitioning out of those services because that comes to an end. And we had an appointment with Dr. Liam where they were just beginning to give recognition to the fact that once children who are born with or acquire a disability at young an age, that service stops when they become 21. School stops. In some ways it felt like falling off of a cliff. It's where do we go now? What do we do? What happens with the rest of our life? Where do we get the services? And met with Dr. Liam, and she met Michael, and just in conversation, that's where I could see her dream. That was probably 13 years ago, her dream about this beyond disability for the adult population in our community. And so then we went away, and then Michael began having some appointments with her, and she asked me this question about, you were on the board at John McGivney. Do you know any accountants? Because we need to have a tax return done. And said, well, I could probably help with that. I don't think she even knew, but I'm a retired accountant. And so I was able to assist with that. And the next thing you knew, I was on the board also. So I had retired from the John McGivney board and being involved in that organization for, I think, almost 20 years. So I was open to joining this adventure, I call it. It's really life-altering for many people, and I believe in the mission, and there's so much work to be done in so many areas to make life better for people living with disability in our community. So that's how I got involved, and happy to be here and contribute where I can.
And Melanie, I know the network is preparing for their only fundraiser of the year. So could you tell me about the LOL comedy event?
I could, but Kevin, I do want to hear how you got to be involved in Beyond Disability as well.
Yeah, no problem. So I actually found out about Beyond Disability from Elaine Whitmore, who was the former CEO of the John McGivney Children's Center. And she said, you know a lot of people in the community, and I need you to do me a favor. And when Elaine Whitmore asked me to do her a favor, I always say yes. So then after Elaine told me about the network, I had a phone conversation with a very convincing Dr. Liam, and then I became involved with Beyond Disability. One of the reasons I agreed to join was because I firmly believe, as a principle of my beliefs, that inclusion is the gateway to independence, and certainly for my professional work, I've done a lot of work locally helping people with disabilities become employed. And I know that once they leave the John McGivney Children's Center, most of the services that they're used to are they're taken away, as Arla said. So I wanted to continue to provide an outlet or a service for people with disabilities who are transitioning to adulthood. So that's why and how I got involved in the network myself. And it's been an honor to serve as one of the newest members of the board of directors. So.
Great.
Absolutely. We are always looking for different skill sets. And I think, Kevin, one of the lovely things that you've brought to our board is sort of that media savvy. And this is my first podcast. I was a little nervous, but it seems to be going okay. But, you know, I think that this ability you have to connect with people and the way that you communicate with people is a really wonderful thing. So we're happy to have you on board.
I appreciate the compliment, and I'm happy to serve the great people of Windsor and Essex in this capacity, but I'm also excited to know about the LL Comedy event, because I know that it'll raise some money and we'll have a good time. So could you tell me about it?
So this is my 6th year sitting on the committee. It is the first year we've ever attempted a virtual comedy event. For obvious reasons, we have to go virtual, but I think it's actually going to be more amazing than ever. So it is a online, coming to a screen near you. You would purchase your ticket. It's $25. The actual airing of the comedy event is going to be Monday, January the 18th of 2021. So a Blue Monday, something to cheer you up. It's in January. And then it was going to go at noon with an encore performance at 7. But if you can't watch that day and those times, we just send you a link. So really you can watch it whenever it suits you. And that money is going to be split evenly, any proceeds from the event, between Beyond Disability and our partner, Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare Foundation. So it's a really great event, and I'm excited to be involved, and I'm learning all sorts of things about how to put on an event virtually. So it's a learning curve for everybody, but the person who's helping us produce it, John Shamoon, has been wonderful, and he has experience, so that's amazing. And our trusty MC for all these years, Bob Lebrecht, is also working hard to make things run seamlessly, and we've got a great partner with Linda Delozio at Hotel Dieu. She's handling all the ticket sales, so it's going really well, and we hope to have a very action-packed event for everyone, and hopefully lots of laughs.
Melanie, who are some of the big names?
Yeah, who will be a part of the event? Yeah.
So Derek Tennant's our headliner. He's performed all over the world. He's performed on cruise ships. I apparently had a role in a Jeff Foxworthy movie. I don't watch a lot of Jeff Foxworthy, but he was apparently had a role on there. Dave Coulier, Joey from Full House, is going to do a set. Darren McCarty is going to talk about his life on the road, like his hockey life. So apparently, I haven't seen his set yet, but he's very funny. Then we have some amateur comedians. So Louis Brady and Christine Hall, Scott Gogan, if I'm saying his name correctly. And he did something really, really cool. He actually took a comedy set and he actually then put graphics to it. So you hear him at a comedy club, but he created a visual to go with it. It's very cool. So I think you'll enjoy that. And then we have a couple more submissions. And then, of course, every year we feature Steve Bazaire. He's a local lawyer and funny man. So he's going to do a set as well. So and there's still a couple submissions coming in. So it's going to be a real mix of people. And one of the great things about having so many comedians is if you don't find one particularly funny, then you might enjoy the other one. And if you find some really funny, you can watch it again.
Absolutely. Hey, ladies, I'm wondering if you could end just by giving me the importance of promoting inclusion for people with disabilities, for anybody who may be watching this, who wants sort of the reason why it's so important to promote the need for inclusion of people with disabilities. What would you tell them?
Well, I would say with my son, who was born with prematurely, and he's now 34. So if you have a disability, it can be any kind of a disability and of any severity. There's always someone who is worse off than you, but everyone can benefit by, and the community can benefit by knowing this population, knowing the My Sons of the world, knowing Kevin McShane. So we're angels. They're angels brought into our life, and we need to know what they bring for us, whether it's happiness or laughter or a sense of caring. And they bring so much to our world that we need to have them included. My motto has been since he was born is to be the best he can be. I think that's the motto of every person in the world should be, no matter what level of ability you have, to be the best you can be. So this organization talks about not so much focusing on the disability, but what can we be, and doing our best to make that happen.
Melanie?
So there's two quotes that I like to just build on what Arla just said. It's on our brochure, but I choose not to place the dis in my ability. So it's seeing beyond that disability to your ability. And I think that speaks to me. And the other quote that I really like, and it's always resonated with me, and it's probably because of my work that I do as a lawyer doing personal injury work, is we are all temporarily able-bodied. Because at any moment, something could happen to you and you might join that community, right? And so to me, that including everyone, and this isn't just persons with disability, and I appreciate that's our topic today, but really including everyone, that we shouldn't exclude any group for any reason or any person for any reason, that we all can learn from each other. And I think that desire to connect, like people connecting on a personal level, on a human level, having empathy and caring for other people, being kind to other people, it really should be a way of life. And the fact that it's not for some people is, I think, Kevin, what you're speaking to. Why is it important? It's important because you could be there, right? You could be there tomorrow. We're all temporarily able-bodied, right? And you just don't know. So I think that for us, obviously we all believe in this mission. But if you're watching this, congratulations, maybe you've learned something. But certainly I would say inclusivity, I think, is growing in momentum. I've seen it grow over the last 10 years, and I think that's going to be the wave of the future.
And I know that the network has a website for anybody that wants more information. So could one of you tell me about the website?
Yeah, it's www.beyonddisability.ca.
Fantastic. Ladies, I really enjoyed our conversation, and I want to thank you for joining me this morning to have a conversation about the evolution of disability in our local Windsor and Essex community, and all about Beyond Disability. So great to see both of you, and thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you,
Yes,
Kevin.
thank you, Kevin.
And I can't wait to meet you in person